Hello, 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 hello. Hello. I'm here. I made it on a Monday. I succeeded. I did not squander the day. I got my errands done and somehow still managed to be ready for this. It's amazing. I know. Hi. The thing we're testing out today. This. This. Um, I've never heard of such a thing. I I know I know you can roast garlic. That's not I've never heard of. I have never heard of a tool designed for it. Here's the thing: it's real small. It's meant for one. It's meant for one clove. I think this company. Well, I don't think I know. I looked that up. This company makes a larger version that's meant for four. Um, but this one came as a set, and the other part of the set was this little cute little pot here, which is for storing your garlic. Um, and it's supposed to be dark but airy with the holes in it so that your garlic stays fresh and doesn't sprout. I haven't had it long enough to test that out, but we're going to test the roaster part, the little cooker, this little guy, today. He goes in the oven, he also goes in the microwave, and that's the one I'm much more interested in trying, but I want to test both ways. The microwave one is supposed to, according to the box, here's another thing, the instructions are on the outside of the box, which is quite odd. But the microwave version says it takes a minute. And if that gives me soft, jammy garlic in a minute in the microwave in this thing, that would be an absolute revelation. But we're going to try it in the oven as well. And we're going to do a classic one in the oven too. And that's not going to be my main course. My main course today is actually another one. It's a classic that we're bringing back around because it showed up at the store again, and I love these things. Breadfruit has returned. I am going to actually use a recipe this time instead of just throwing it into things that I would throw in potatoes. Um, and we're going to make little fried. The recipe calls them puffs, but they're more like hush puppies or fritters. Um, there's a couple different ones. We're using the one that doesn't have the video because I don't want to have a video. Um, oh, that's not the same one I just had a minute ago. Well, puffs? I don't know. There you go. Um, Global Kitchen Travels recipe for breadfruit puffs. Um, is what I'll be following. I almost grabbed a cassava today to play with some more cassava because I had such a good time with that. But I saw the breadfruit and I wanted to go for the breadfruit. But we need to start, we're starting with the garlic because even with the device here, if we pop over, even with the, here's all of our accoutrements. Even with the device here, there's our instructions. It's 30 minutes and then remove the cover and bake an additional 45 minutes. Um, Based occasionally with olive oil. That might actually be fussier than doing it the way I remember doing it, so maybe it makes a better result. Either way, I got 3 heads of garlic to test with. And you're supposed to start it in a cold oven. So we will actually start today by prepping one of our garlics so that it can heat up with the oven, and then decide which one I want to give preference to. It's going to be that one. We're going to take a very sharp knife and just cut the top off of our garlic. Pull away any of the paper that seems loose, but don't peel these guys. You want the papers that are still tight to stay tight. And there are little bits of good garlic that come off when you do this. So I am going to save those, and we will use them I'll attempt to use them a bit later. I would hate for those little guys to go to waste. Okay. I'm just going to get a bowl. We're going to have a lot more of these flaky bits as we do this 2 more times. So there is the first head of garlic and some olive oil. Oop. Probably a little much on the olive oil, but that's fine. You put it in the thing, you put the lid on the thing, and we put it in the oven, which is cold. And then we turn the oven on to 300, and that's started. Okay. While that's getting started, I will do garlic number 2. I like this one. This one's dirty. Like with dirt. Looks like it's in between the cloves. And they're sticky now because that's odd. You don't see that very much. Huh. Odd. But not a problem. Not really. Just have to make sure to clean that little grit off. We're going to save our little tops for these as well. We're well outside of garlic season, so this is a decent test because these garlics are kind of a little iffy. Now here's how I would do it normally. Cut the top off, put it on a piece of foil, oil it the same. gather up the foil around it. And then kind of not crush the top, but like and close it with a little bit of airspace in there. And then that would go into an already hot oven. So we will have it sit on a tray here and wait for the oven to be hot. And then it can go in for the same amount of time as the other one. Save the little bowl here so we don't lose them. Save the little bits. And then the third one, we're going to try in the microwave version, which could be interesting or it could be a bad. If the microwave version works, then I think that will be the good one. I over-oiled that first one a little bit, considering it didn't have a thing to catch the oil. Because then it runs right onto the board, which I don't really want. So the test has begun. But we have other things to do while it's in progress. And our other thing to do is the beast here. Oop, I should turn the sink light off. Sharpen up our knife because these breadfruits can be a little stiff. So I want to make sure I am well prepared. With our brand new honing steel that came with my knife set, which is now all cleaned and ready to use. Although I have it kind of tucked away in an awkward spot behind the screen, so we might not end up using it very much. And we're doing a different type of breadfruit this time, or not. That's wrong. It's the same type of breadfruit. What we're doing with it is a different preparation, because I'm boiling it this time instead of roasting it. And we're not skinning it first, like we've done in the past. We're just going to boil it with the skin on. And I can't, of course, do a roast because the oven is occupied. So we're just going to quarter it. This is a nice looking fruit. This is a nice looking piece of breadfruit. I need to get out a big pot. And I need to clear these clean pots off of my stove. I just did some dishes earlier and they were set out to dry. We're going to use the small wok, so I'm going to keep that guy. I'll just leave it where it was. We're going to keep the small wok handy because I'm going to use that for frying a little bit later. I like the small base of it because it'll let us get away with using a substantially less oil. But I need a, let's see, will that guy be big enough or should I go for the large pot? I probably have enough leeway here to do another side recipe as well if I wanted to. We have a bunch of other ingredients to prep, so it's not like we're in stalling time just yet. see, it boils for a while, so we should get that started too. Since it boils for quite a while, I am going to go for the larger pot, and we're going to go for I'm going to make sure it really boils it. Is there garlic in this? No, there's no garlic in this. There is grated onion, which, I'm sorry, I hate doing that. We're not doing that. We're going to mince it instead. It's probably some horrible thing to mince it, but no, we're not grating onion. I hate doing that. Put my olive oil back. We don't need that just yet. We're probably going to modify this recipe because I want to use the garlics, and also I don't have a Scotch bonnet, and also I don't think I want to use a Scotch bonnet because it is one of the hottest peppers in the world, and I don't think I would survive. We also are going to use scallions instead of chives because my chive plant is bouncing back, but it is not ready for major cutting, and I have a scallion down here that we can use instead anyways. And they're not the same, but they're similar enough that I think it'll be similar enough. Oh, that's right, we need to make breadcrumbs. Well, we've got lots of time while the fruits are boiling. We're going to get that water up to a boil and then add the fruits, because of the old adage of boiling things. Although this is... I don't know. I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna stick with it. Another thing I got today, and I'm not sure what to do with, is this entire melon. It was super discounted because it's got some discoloration there and a little bit of bruising on the side here. So it probably needs to be used fairly soon, but the rest of it is nice and firm. So it's just got one little spot, I think. It's a honeydew, which I don't know what to do with honeydew aside from just cut it up and eat it raw, which might end up being what I do with it. What do you serve with breadfruit fritters? Serve with hot sauce. Go serve with hot sauce. These things have a Scotch bonnet in them. I guess the Jamaicans really do love their spice. Breadfruit, egg, pepper, chadon beni, don't know what it is. Milk. This one is garlic, onion, grated again. Cheese, just says cheese. What kind of cheese? Where would you put cheese in these guys? New Zealand cheddar is what they linked to. Boil and mash the breadfruit, add the roasted ingredients, smash smooth. Okay, I'm going to keep both of these open, and we're going to kind of hybridize them. We're going to kind of hybridize these. We're going to use the little bit of garlic from our experiments. I should cut the top. Yeah, okay. I should cut the top off the third one. So we can use all of the garlic bits. See, that one wasn't dirty inside. That second one just had some like soil, which, I mean, makes sense. This is a bulb, it grows underground, kind of pokes its way out. So it makes sense. I've just never seen that much caught in between before. It surprised me. Yeah, so because we're gonna want this one. We're actually going to cut a little bit more because the two on that side did not quite. You need the tops of these guys to be revealed. And loose bits of the paper will burn. Although this is the one that's going to go in the microwave, so I'm not sure about that. In the oven, they would burn. Okay, and little bits there. So those are the tops of all of our garlics. We're going to use them in our fritter things. Fritter puffs? Hush puppies? It's not that because we're not making a batter or a dough, really. Okay. Obviously, that's not a ton of garlic, but I don't think we want a ton of garlic here, so I'm not going to add any extra this time around. Let's get the garlic masher itself in a little bit of water so it does not turn into a hardened mass while we do other things. We're going to hang on to the scraps bowl. I suppose we'll move on to onion. It says half an onion, but these are small onions, so I'm just going to use a whole onion. And we're also, as mentioned, going to be mincing instead of grating, because grating sounds like a pain for an onion to me. Obviously, feel free to grate if you prefer. I also considered we could put such a thing in the food processor. I'm going to end up using the food processor anyways. Because I have some bread that is very dried out that I need to turn into crumbs because we need some breadcrumbs for this. And then I'll tell you a story about the bread and why I have so much of it. Why I have so much of a slightly awkward amount. So I'm trusting the layers of the onion to separate as we cut through this, so that our mince is a bunch of little square bits. But I'm cutting them very thin pieces because I want little minces. I can hear my water boiling. So let's take one last look at our breadfruit. Hi, hi. Hello, ho. One last glance at our quartered breadfruit, for it goes, oops, that's my face. In the back corner here, we're going to crank the temperature down a little bit. We are going to, ooh, they float. Well, good to know, they float. Let's keep them a-floating. And they need to boil for a while. So we've got lots of time to do other things, and we've got lots of time to deal with the garlics. Come back over here, continue gently, carefully working on my onion. I've cut these so thin that I really have to hold on to it with my fingers so that the pieces, the layers kind of stay together. But this knife is so sharp that I'm afraid of cutting myself with it, so I'm going deliberately pretty slow. This little tiny knife is very sharp. But welcome in. Hi, hi. Ho, ho. Hey, hey. How's it going? I'm strongly considering taking all of our ingredients and sticking them into the food processor when we get to that point of having them all here to combine them, because I think we might have a little bit of a harder time, especially with the breadfruit element. And it will help with the fact that these onions were not quite grated, but I instead went for a mince. We have an ad snuck up on me. They always do. So, garlic, onion. These two recipes are slightly different. We need an egg mixed with some milk, and they both ask for different amounts of the two of them. I don't know what Shadon Benny are, and I can't even. Okay, well, Shadon Benny is culantro, which I see sometimes. I don't have it. What's similar? Similar to culantro. Papalo is similar to culantro. Don't know. And it says it tastes like cilantro, which we're not using full stop. And the other recipe calls for parsley. So I guess we're using parsley. That's my substitute. Which is fine by me. That's what I go for anyways. This one calls for cheese. These also aren't like nice spheres, and they're also not breadcrumbed. I don't know that these two recipes really mesh together. We have Simply Trini Cooking and Global Kitchen Travels Caribbean Puffs. And a Scotch bonnet. We're not using a Scotch bonnet. We are instead going to use a jalapeno. Because I am a wimp. I could have gotten a habanero. Which would have been closer in terms of heat and flavor. But I'm using some jalapenos that I already have on hand. I'm using one jalapeno that I already had on hand as well. So it's a case of not wanting to. God, it calls for Scotch bonnet, and then it calls for serving it with hot sauce as well. And I can't imagine how spicy that is. Scotch bonnet, if you're not familiar, being one of the hottest peppers in the world. From Jamaica. I'm still just chatting. Oh, I keep forgetting to change that. Thank you for that. I had it set to that at one point when I was. I think it was when I was doing the Legos last. Because I felt like I wanted to try out chat. Well, because I spent some part of that time chatting and then part of that time building Legos. I just keep forgetting to switch it back. Thank you. Okay. We're going to mince these guys too, but we're going to do it with a big knife because it's going to be easier, and I'm less worried about getting the little layers because there are no little layers in a pepper. Okay. Oh. Get out another holding bowl. Break some of these apart with my finger because I evidently did not get that knife to slide through them properly. Probably, because my peppers are wrinkly again. They flex slightly when they're wrinkly, rather than just breaking apart. So if you're not careful, they won't cut fully. A seed, get in there. Seeds would add to our heat, but because of the way we're cooking this, they're going to also be little hard pieces that I don't want to deal with. Rinse my hands off real quick. By rinse, I mean wash with soap before the pepper juices set in and I end up touching my eye or something. Oven is still working on itself. We have a pair of scallions that are going to be our stand-in for chives. They are definitely not the same thing, but close enough. As my father would say, close enough for government work. Which, having worked with the government, I can tell you that that is sort of true. So what's up? You're putting your mac and cheese in, which, let me tell you, is a delight. I don't want little rings here, so I am splitting both of these guys lengthwise before I go through them properly. Oh, and we should get a little bowl ready because we need just another little bowl. I also know other people who cook under just chatting just because just chatting is a more popular category and gets more attention. And they're chatting while they cook, so I spent the past couple of days doing the great backyard bird count in my backyard. I did not today because I spent most of the morning doing errands, and also it was the same usual suspects from the previous 3 days. Just came back around. I could change back. I'm not sure. We are having a little bit of a low turnout day today so far. How long have those garlics been? I think the garlic has to be handled. So we're going to carefully, gingerly take the lid off. Oops, shoot, bumped the actual garlic. Take the lid off the first garlic and put in the wrapped up one. Now the lid is very hot, so it's going to live here on the top until it cools off. I think this is the first time that this piece of kit has ever been used. garlic, wet stuff. Nutmeg. We can do nutmeg. I have whole nutmegs. Nutmeg. Interesting. Interesting include nutmeg. Where's my microplane? We don't need much, and it's a pretty pungent little thingy, but but I do love nutmeg. Fun fact, nutmeg is hallucinogen, I think, and also you can overdose on it real easy. It's one of those things. You know, it's one of those things. A decent amount of salt. I'm just going to add right here because it's going to go in the mix. This little guy can be our dry materials dish. Some black pepper, which we're going to carefully grind. He actually wants quite a bit of it, which is fine by me. I like black pepper. And then it's the egg and the milk for the forming of the dough, and some oil for frying, and some crumbs for breading. I think that's all of our... This one wants cheese. And it's just add the rest of it. Both of these are just... Both these recipes are really, really super simple. It's boil your breadfruit, mash your breadfruit, add the rest of it, form balls, fry. Super simple. Which is fine. I love quick, fast. I think we're going to skip the cheese. This one wants Chardon Benny, the other one wants parsley. I suppose that means we do the parsley next. Parsley is the last ingredient, aside from the milk and the egg, that I have not... We're going to open this bag of parsley with a knife. Rather than deal with it. What? What? It can't be tightening both directions. One direction has to be the direction that the thing releases. There you go. Okay. Parsley, and they both want quite a bit. One of them wants 6 Chardon Benny leaves, which I looked them up, and they're pretty big. The other one wants a 1/4 cup of parsley, chopped. So I'm going to throw in that much, because when I chop it up, it should shrink down to the appropriate quantities. Or who knows, it might be too much, but it's going to fit in this bowl. That's my goal. I think we might have a little bit more than a quarter cup. But that's fine. I like parsley. And if we run the knife through it a little bit more, it'll shrink a little bit more as well. Knock some more of the air out of it. Okay. Okay. A lot of vegetables and spices going on in this. Which I approve. Clean off the board. Do I need the board for anything else? Probably not. Probably not. There's nothing red in here. Interesting. It's all going to be green and sort of pale tan. Do we think our breadfruits have boiled long enough? I'm going to say no. I'm going to leave them in there while I do the last thing that needs to be prepped ahead of them, which is our breadcrumbs. And here's the fun bit. I'm getting out the device, one of the many devices. This one. It's back. Behold. I feel like I settled the camera into a new spot that's higher than it used to be, because this fits much more easily under where I have it. And let me tell you a story about... It won't fit on the screen there. Let me tell you a story about why I have two half baguettes here that we're going to grind into breadcrumbs that are incredibly dried out. The grocery store is having a deal where if you buy one of these, you get 20 cents a gallon off gas. And they were selling these for $2.50. And it worked out that because my tank was pretty low, I was going to end up getting enough gallons of gas that for every loaf of baguette I purchased, it was just less money overall. So I just grabbed a bunch of them because they all counted. It's stacked up as long as you rank them up as separate items. It's stacked up. So then I just got cheap gas and some bread. But of course the bread, I couldn't eat it all before it dried out. But that's fine. Because you can still use dried out bread. And that is the story of why I have some very dried out baguettes here that we are going to turn into crumbs. I could have frozen them, but I did not, and now they're just dry. I mean, it was bakery fresh bread, so they are not, they don't have those dough conditioners. They're also very long. They were like full-size baguettes. This one doesn't want to break. But they don't have those dough conditioners, so they did not stay very long. They dried out quite rapidly, quite readily, which is what bread does. Bread shouldn't really go moldy as fast as it does. It's just that we put conditioners in it so that it stays soft, and that causes it to retain moisture, which causes it to get moldy instead of drying out. Drying out is the more normal thing for bread to do. So I'm just gonna, this is just one of them, because this is quite a bit. We still got the other one, which is also rock hard. And we just need some breadcrumbs. So this is how you make bread. This is why things call for breadcrumbs, is because you would have dry bread, because you didn't use all your bread. Okay, now that is loud. That is about as loud as it gets. We have breadcrumbs. Irregularly sized, but that is fine. It'll give us a more interesting texture. Boy, that was loud. Wow-wee, that one was loud. You can also do this with a mallet and a bag and just crush them up manually. Oh, okay, it's less crumbs and more chunks. No, quite a bit of it is crumbs. Well, it's going to make for an interesting texture, I think. Get it out of there. And it should be really easy to clean too, because this was just dry bread, so I can go for a straight up rinse on the blade instead of having to wash it. Which is nice, because that blade is difficult to hand wash. I also want to get the dust out of, well, I was going to get the dust out of here. The dust will be fine. We're going to use this to combine our dough as well. And we're going to use the other attachment. Okay. Honestly, I almost want to throw it. I almost want to throw it in the blender. I wonder if the blender would be better at it. I don't know. It's kind of an awkward thing, grinding bread. Okay, I'm going to say that speaking of bread, I'm going to say the breadfruit is done and ready to come out. So we will fish that out. It needs to cool off just enough to handle it, and then I have to mash it. Because apparently, if you let it cool off fully, the starches rebind and it won't mash. And I guess I trust the people who've eaten it for thousands of years more than myself. It smells good. It smells like... Oh, you're getting a cloud of steam right in the camera. Probably not good for the camera. It smells like something familiar. It is screaming hot. Well, it's boiling hot. It's literally boiling hot. I'm gonna have it kind of on the side there so that the steam cloud does not go directly up the camera lens. Probably not good for the camera to have quite that much steam. And I don't need the water anymore, so we'll just drain that off. There's probably some good use for that water, and I am obviously not bothering to discover what that use might be. Interesting. You can see it drying out as it steams. Okay, so right away, I don't need to wait too much because this part is easy to get to. We're taking the core. Oh, that's hot. We're taking the core with the little seeds out the middle of our breadfruit. We don't want the little seeds. We don't want that little golf ball. It's so soft. It's so tender. I wonder if I can't just get in under it with a spoon. It's you know what? It is hot, but it's not as hot as I think. Like when we've done beets, and I've had to then peel the beets while they're hot. I think this isn't retaining heat as much as a root of a similar size would. And yeah, it's soft enough at this point that I can just get in there under that core thing with a spoon. Way easier to remove than when we've done this when it was raw. And I think I can. Oh, yeah. Okay, yes. Oh, I'm going to do it backwards. I'm going to do it backwards and not, instead of scooping the flesh out of the skin, I'm going to scoop the skin off of the flesh, but it just peels away with the spoon. It's really easy. Because it's so soft. Okay, lessons learned. This is way easier than when I've done the roast version. There you go. It was just that easy. Just that easy. It still has the issue where the little scales kind of break up the skin so it doesn't want to just peel off as a big sheet of skin, which is unfortunate because you lose just a little bit of the underlying fruit by removing the skin. But we would have lost more if I'd peeled it before cooking it, because we've done that before, and we lose a bit of the skin every time. Or a bit of the fruit every time. So while I was picking this up, I almost grabbed another cassava to play with that. In fact, I did pick up a cassava, and then I saw that the breadfruit had just been restocked like moments before. I'm like, ooh, fresh breadfruit. So that's how we ended up with breadfruit. But while I was picking it up, I noticed that they also just restocked chermoya, which is custard apple, which is something I have wanted to try. And I almost grabbed one. In fact, well, okay, I did grab one. I picked one up, but they were so underripe that I figured I would just let them hang out and I'd go back later, because they were hard as rocks. And I know they're not supposed to be when you eat them. They're supposed to be soft and custardy, thus the name custard apple. I can hear my garlics whispering softly to each other in there. Again, as with all of these local but not globally beloved starches that I like trying, I can tell why this has not taken off the way that, say, a potato has. It's just slightly fussier. Cut these guys into chunks. I want to taste this as is. So let's just take a piece. It's dry, it's mild. It's weirdly dry. It's less bready than when you roast it. But it still has a bit of that starchy bread texture, or flavor, not texture. The texture is actually really nice. It's very, very soft. I think boiling it like this, which honestly makes a lot of sense. You boil most of these starchy things. You boil potatoes. We boiled cassava. You boil turnips and rutabagas and all that sort of stuff. Boiling softens up the starches much more readily than roasting. Roasting maintains some more of the firmness. Now we're supposed to mash. That's the other thing it says. Mash. So we mash. It's a little stiff. It's a little stiff. Ooh, I can smell my garlics back there doing their garlicky thing. So you can kind of, I guess you can kind of mash it with your fingers. It's sticky. It's dry when it's just cut, but as soon as you start to sort of smash it like this, it's developing a stickiness, which is going to let us form our dough for sure. But I almost want to say you should put this through a machine, like a ricer, but it might even be too dense for that. I'm just gonna go at it with my hands here and really kind of smash out the lumps that I can feel. We're adding some liquid to it once we've got this part smushed. But both recipes indicate mashing it before adding the milk and the egg to it. So we're doing that. This is working well enough. I bet you stuff is like pounded. That's often I see at a thing. That's how cassava is supposed to be done. It's not. It's put in a dish and then you beat it. Okay. It sticks to me way less than it sticks to itself. It sticks to me way less than a wheat-based dough would at this stage. Slightly old milk. And our eggs. And then we're going to combine our milk and egg. Fresh, sticky egg. Doesn't want to let go of itself. Okay. I thought I might be able to get away with using my finger there, but we are going to have to get out our chopsticks or whisk. to break up the egg properly. Finger just doesn't quite cut it. Okay. That nice and well combined. Put it in there. And all of our other ingredients, as both recipes say at this stage. Add the rest. Keeping an eye on our time too. We're getting close to when I want to pull both of those garlics out and take a look at them. Okay, all of our stuff is in, and now we turn this mash into a dough that lives in the bowl because it's supposed to be pretty sticky. And yeah, I'm just not even gonna pretend to use a tool for this. We're just using my hands. Oh, we lost some on the back. I couldn't. Okay. This is the fun part. This is not the fun part. This is not a satisfying dough. This is a bit of a squishy mess. It is combining, which is nice. And the liquid is incorporating into the breadfruit quite well and softening it up. So the process is definitely working, but the dough does not feel at all like a bread dough. It's more like a farce. It's almost like kneading warm meat. For example, if you were making meatballs or sausage, that's kind of the vibe I get from it. But it is combining. We're combining just fine. And it holds together, and it's picking all the bits up as it goes, so it's fully working. It's just slightly unpleasant to handle. And it looks like we're actually pretty even on it as well. I Guess I don't need to make a side for this because this is quite a lot. It's basically the size of the breadfruit we started with. And since we trimmed bits of it off, I guess that means we added in about as much as we lost to the trimming. Okay. It looks combined to me. There's no wheat in this, so there's no gluten, so there's nothing to develop. Aside from maybe the egg protein, which we don't want to overwork, although there's not a ton of it in there. It's just going to help be a binder when it cooks. Likewise, I assume with the dairy protein. So I'm washing the eggs off my hands because I'm going to handle our garlics next. Just don't forget, that's what we started with today. The very beginning was we're testing out the garlic machine. The garlic set. This. We're comparing it to a foil-wrapped garlic. And they've been in there. The one in the thing started in there half hour earlier in a cold oven. One in the foil went in when we took the lid off the first one, or the one with the thing. So we're kind of comparing, and they're in there at the same temperature. So we're sort of comparing the two methods. We're comparing the little pot to how I would do it with just some foil. And then, at the end, when they're both out, we will compare again to the microwave method that the box promises only takes a minute. And the microwave method is not going to have to be super, super good in order to be worth it, because a minute is a lot faster than an hour and a quarter. We also need to fry up the stuff. For which I have our small wok on the back burner because it'll let us get away with using less oil that concentrates toward the middle. And it'll heat up faster. So let's get that heating. And while that's getting started, let's pull our garlics out and give them a little side by side. Let's see. The thing here is hot, hot, hot. Everything involved is hot, hot, hot. Oven goes off, off, off. Okay. Move this over. Come back over. Yeah. So there's the one that ran on the garlic roaster. And the other one is how I would do it without the garlic roaster. with just some tin foil and a little tray to hold it off the rack. And it's already almost cool enough to touch. Tin foil does not retain heat very long at all. It's going to be hot on the inside. Well, the one on the little roaster got more direct exposure. That's probably my fault. I really squinched the top on this one. But let's... I'm going to take you off. Ow. Ow. So hot. Take you off. Ah, also hot. That one's actually hotter, which is interesting. We're going to wipe down the little dish, which is hot. Everything is hot. We're going to wipe down the little dish. Put the last head of garlic on it. Boil it. Lid on. And put it in the microwave. For 1 minute. That tray is already cooled off. Okay. So the one on the roaster that I followed the instructions looks better. I think I should have not squinched the one that I did in the foil quite so close because we didn't get any browning on the top, but they feel pretty soft and jammy. The one I'm most curious about is the microwave one, because that is cook at full power for 1 minute, allow to cool in the little thingy. So we're gonna let it sit in there and cool off. Gonna put my eggs away because they're just kind of sitting here. Wow, the timings today worked out wonderfully. Super impressed. Super impressed. Because I assumed I was going to have a bunch of downtime at some point between having to boil the breadfruit for a half an hour, roast these guys for 1 1/4. But wow, none of that happened. And I suppose while we're waiting for the one in the microwave to cool off, I will construct some of these balls. So you make a little ball, you throw it in the breadcrumbs, and you call it done. make a little ball. You throw it in the breadcrumbs. Repeat until all the little balls are crummy. And then I guess fry until golden brown is the name of the order on these guys. We are definitely developing a little bit of a dough hand, a breading hand situation here. Because although this stuff by itself is not actually sticking to my hands that much, it leaves kind of a sticky residue, but the stuff itself is not like leaving a big layer on my hand. It's got enough moisture in it that it's causing the breadcrumbs to do exactly that. Which isn't my favorite. Our sizes are also highly variable, so I hope that doesn't matter. Everything in here either cooks at a very low temperature, or is completely edible as is, or is already cooked. The eggs cook at a very low temperature, and you don't need to get eggs very hot at all to cook. All of our vegetables are good raw, except for our breadfruit, which is already boiled. So I guess we only need to get these golden brown on the outside. My homemade breadcrumbs are a little awkward because they're very dusty and also very. I can smell that oil. That oil is hot, hot, hot. So we should probably start frying the ones I've got before I gas myself with overheated oil. Scrape some of the gunk off my hands. We're going to go for a full-on wash, actually. Okay, I don't know how hot the oil is. I don't have a thermometer in it. But if I take a drop of water from the sink and go like that, it makes a loud clinking, which tells me that it's real hot. So we're going to take the first few of those guys, throw them in there, get them frying up, and then roll them around and get a thing to catch them on. Can't forget that part. Roll out a big sheet of paper towel. And a rack. There you go. And while they were getting started, I'm going to turn our temperature up a little bit on them because I definitely dropped the temperature by throwing the balls in the oil. So while they are getting started over there, we're going to roll up the last few balls. Get everybody ready to go so I can just clean my hands off. Be done with the sticky stuff. Okay, and we can wash my hands again. Hot tap water. Okay, I can see they're browning along the edges that are downward, so we're going to give these a quick roll around. It looks like they cook pretty fast, which makes sense because they are already cooked. Yeah, look at that golden brown. We're just going to roll them over. Lovely golden brown. Get my last garlic out of my little pot. Ooh, this one's all steamy. This one's very pale, which makes sense. Microwave does not apply any direct heat, but we'll see how well we got the softness. I have just the plate. This is a plate we have not used since I acquired it. This one, right here. Perfect for a side-by-side comparison shot of these three garlicky boys, which I'm going to go take a snap of. With my improved camera phone. Oh, I know. Before I take that snap, I want the little roaster thing to be in the shot in the background. Keep an eye on those fritters. Tell me if they burn. Okay. Brought those guys back. Have they burned? Did they burn? No, they look perfectly golden brown on the bottom now, too. I guess I take them out? Like I said, they're cooked in the inside, so we're just going for the crispy exteriors here, not... We don't need to cook them through. There's nothing in there that I'm worried about cooking through. I almost put my thumb in the hot oil just then. That's not wise. And we do actually have a few in here that need to be breadcrumbed yet. So the breadcrumb layer, I think, just makes them easier to handle. Because it makes the surfaces dry. They're not wet enough that they're soaking through that breadcrumb layer. They're just sticky enough that they're unpleasant on your fingers, but then the breadcrumb layer really adheres quite well, which is nice. I like that. And when frying them, there's just enough around the edges where you can kind of see when they've gone golden brown, and then you can flip them over. They are also holding their shape really well. And no, before you ask, the roasted garlics and the breadfruit balls don't actually go together. We also did not end up using the dough hook. I thought maybe I would combine it all using the dough hook, but it was, when I got that to that point, it felt too stiff. Mac and cheese just came out of the oven. Perfect timing. Excellent. People always complain. How am I going to eat the balls? I'm going to serve them to myself with a. I'm going to make a hot mayo dip. I think they want a hot mayo dip, personally. The recipes, both recipes, in addition to them containing a Scotch bonnet, both of them containing a Scotch bonnet, wanted to be served with hot sauce. And since they're Jamaican recipes, I'm assuming a Jamaican hot sauce, which are much hotter than the hot sauces that I am familiar and accustomed to. But I don't think I want to completely blast myself with spice like that. So I think I'm going to serve them with a sriracha mayo dip. I think we need to turn our heat up a little bit. I think we're losing heat to these balls slightly too much. That is the concern. When you do a fry in a wok like this, you use less oil because it concentrates it down to the bottom of the wok. And the oil heats up faster as a result of there being less oil, but the oil also cools down a lot faster when you put stuff in it. For the exact same reason. The volume is just smaller, so it's much harder to control your temperature, and you generally have to hit your heat quite a bit harder on it while you are cooking them. As for these garlics, they are cooled off enough that I want to give them the old taste-a-roo. I was snacking earlier today on some Triscuit, and that is going to be my medium because it is very neutral for taste testing. So, in fact, while we're frying, we're coming back over here, and I'm going to be a little distracted because we're going to... Oh, I left an oily ring on my work surface. That probably means I left an oily ring on my camera station. Ooh, that's not going to be the best. But we are going to taste test these guys and compare them. Because that was the main thing. So they're just each getting a cracker. They should be cool enough to handle. So we'll just take out one of these here roasted jammy cloves. At least they should be roasted in jammy. This one's a little bit tighter. Oh, but the clove comes out, slides out just the same. That one's a little bit smaller. Let me check on my balls. Just a few seconds on the other side there. So let's give these the old taste test. Starting with the one done in the classic way with just some foil wrap. Can I mash it? Step 1. Yes. What does it taste like? Step 2. It's mellow. It's a strong but mellow garlic. And it's almost sweet. That'd be really nice with some crusty bread with some cheese, wine on the side, some olives. Very nice. That one's my baseline. If you've never had roasted garlic, I pity you. It is quite the delight. We're putting some... I don't want to risk my fingers every time I do this, so we're using the tongs. Okay, garlic number 2. The one roasted according to the directions on the box here using the device. It mashes more easily and it's visibly more browned. Similar, strong garlic, but mellow, none of the bite. Very, very similar in flavor. The same level of sweetness. Maybe just a hint more toastiness to it. It's not dramatically different. Right at the tail end, it gives me a little bit more of the sharpness of garlic. But the first one definitely didn't give me, even at the very tail end. Which I like. Honestly, very similar. But I'm not using foil in the process. So perhaps, and I have to wash the thing. But I'm not using up any foil in the process of making it. Finally, the one that I'm most interested in trying out, the one using the device in the microwave. It's not as mashable. It's definitely a bit firmer. Although the directions say if you want it softer, you can microwave it longer. So, wee former. Hi. We're doing a taste test. Here, let me get the device. I'm frying up some breadfruit balls in the background there. But right now we're doing the taste test, comparing our roasted garlics using this thing. Using this thing. Hi. And we're on the third one. So far, the one roasted in my traditional method with just some foil was pretty good, the way I have done it before. The one roasted using this thing in the oven, which actually took longer than doing it with the foil, I think was slightly better, but not like groundbreaking. This one took 1 minute in the microwave. It mashes, although it's not quite as soft as these guys. And I'm just about to take a bite and compare. The taste is quite different on this one. It's less intensely garlicky, but the garlickiness that is there is less mellow. And we don't have the sweetness of the ones that were roasted for an hour. But it did mash quite readily. So I think if we just gave it like a minute 30, if you really want mashable, spreadable garlic on short notice, this thing in the microwave definitely delivers that. I don't think it is better than the ones that I roasted. And honestly, I think the one that I roasted using the thing is the best one. Although that might be because I pinched the top of my foil too tightly and I didn't get direct heat, which is why it's a little bit pale on top there. But keep in mind, this one took 45 minutes. This one took an hour 15. This one took 1 minute of cooking plus about 5 minutes of resting. So if you have the time and you want to fire up your whole oven, sure, go for these guys. But if you just want some jammy garlic on short notice, you can't beat this guy in the microwave. It is just head and shoulders faster. Right, it foils the classic way. And I mean, this thing isn't new. I checked the date on it. Copyright 1992. And there's the price I paid for it at the thrift store. So I would say the device there, I just moved the box to the other room, so I stopped juggling it around. I would say the device there works the time. I'll time you out. Anyways, I would say the device does what it says it does, and it actually makes a slightly better garlic than doing it with just the foil. So it does a task. It does what it's designed to do and delivers a result that is noticeably, although not massively, better than the old-fashioned way. You guys can join me on the stove because we're back to just frying these balls. But the fact that you can do it in the microwave, and doing it in the microwave is like reasonably good for how crazy fast it is. That part really impresses me. You made pancakes and coffee milk. We were talking about coffee milk. You crazy Rhode Island crazy people. Also, at this time of night, coffee, crazy. Somebody actually used that emote. No one uses that emote. I put it in the follower section so that somebody might eventually use it, and it just sits there unused. I'm pretty proud of it. But it's got coffee in it. So I just took a big scoop of mayonnaise, and I'm adding a bunch of crystal hot sauce to it. Since our version of the balls is a lot less spicy than the original version of the balls, I'm going to zing up the thing here. Zing the thing. Zings the thing. But there's coffee in the coffee syrup, right? Some sriracha. We could have used bulldog sauce. That stuff's hot. How you guys looking? Golden brown delicious? Oh, not quite. Not quite. I think because there's 5 of them in there. They're a little bit crowded. I need an on-fire thing. I put things in my mouth that are way too hot so many times. And I need a little on-fire heat thing. I just need to do it. I just need to do it. I've talked about doing it for literally months. I just need to do it. That is very cute, though. Who is that? I don't know my Transformers quite well enough to recognize who that is in tiny emote form. And then we're just mixing our mayonnaise into our hot sauce and sriracha until it's all smooth. Classic pink mayonnaise. Ratchet. I can see it now that you say it. I need to figure out how to give my little guy hands, because he's just a planet. Or I need to make a second character that can have hands, Because there are some emotes that I think should have hands, like taking notes. Creamy, sour, because the crystal in there is just hot sauce and or chili peppers and vinegar. Spicy. I was thinking floaty hands. I was thinking maybe like moons, but then the moons have fingers. So the hands would be like little gray balls with fingers, because then I could give, because then they could move around without having to be like attached to anything. Our 3 roasted garlics are not going to waste. Roasted garlic keeps pretty well, and I like it enough that I'm just going to end up using it. We'll probably use it later this week in another recipe. You know, a new recipe. Because otherwise, I normally wouldn't do 3 roasted garlics at once, especially if I'm not having them specifically for dinner. These are our balls. The oldest ones are still warm, but no longer hot, hot, hot. So I guess. Oh, and the other thing. Here, I'll show it off because the device came with 2 things. The roaster. Oh, there's our ad break. I will wait because there is an ad. There is an advertisement that I know some people see. Hashtag ad. I can pick out a plate while I'm thinking about this. I'm going to pick out a plate by picking out the plate I've already got out. We're just going to wipe the oil off of it and use it. And you guys should actually be back just when the balls are coming out, because they look just about done. In fact, they look super done. So we're going to take them out now, and the folks can return from the ad as I'm removing the last balls. Heat off on the oil. 3, 2, 1. You're back. Okay, our last balls are out. I've decided that our plate is going to be the plate that I just did the garlic on. And I'm going to just use my finger to clean up the little sauce bowl here. Put that there, and then there'll be a pile of balls. Balls. Speaking of whom, they're approaching. They're coming. The balls. Phrasing. Here they are. We're going to assemble them on the plate here. The ones on this side just came out, so they are super, super crazy hot. So we're going to start by assembling the ones on the other side. And I want to hopefully make them stand up. Yeah, we can make them stack. Do I know about head? This sounds like a setup to a joke. If anything sounds like a setup, it's that. I don't think I know what you're talking about if it's a reference. This works pretty well. It overloads the plate, but I think that works. It makes it look like it emphasizes how many I've got to kind of really pile them up. So these are our breadfruit puffs / breadfruit fritters. Because breadfruit is back. Breadfruit is back. It leaves every once in a while, and then I have to wait for it to come back. And we're trying something I've never done before with it, and also an actual recipe instead of just treating it like a potato. We're doing something with it that it specifically like is done in the places where it's from. I'm going to remove it to our camera station carefully. It's extra precarious. Grab our glamour shots. And then I'll come back and taste it and talk about it like we always do. And we're coming back, and we're coming back, and we're coming back. Okay. We are returned. And hey, since I've got you here, let me drop a quick one of these guys in the old chatteroo. If you're interested, you get live notifications or not notifications. I don't ping anyone. I just post. And also pictures of my food and very anemic chit chat about food, because that's pretty much what we've got. And I've got an Instagram, which I remember to post things to sometimes. Anyways, these guys, I want to see what they're like on the inside, like visually see what they're like on the inside. So we're going to pop one open. They're very steamy on the inside. They're slightly yellowish, which I feel like they weren't when I put them in there. But maybe I'm just imagining things. And we'll take a bite before I dip it in the sauce too. A good crisp on the outside, and a nice soft, not fluffy, but like soft and slightly textured interior. And all those spices. It really comes through, especially with the onion, because there's quite a lot of onion in there. It's actually very mellow. The onion is not overwhelming. I think the onion steamed inside these balls while they were frying, and it really mellowed out the flavors. because we just put the onion in the raw. Mmm. And they benefit massively from the sauce, which is creamy and sour and spicy, which is three things they don't have. So they are starchy and slightly savory. They're a little undersalted to my palate. And I followed I actually added more salt than the directions called for. And they still taste a little undersalted to my palate. And they're also very, very mildly spiced. Now, granted, I used one jalapeno in this mix instead of the one Scotch bonnet that was called for. So I believe that they're meant to be blow your head off spicy. And mine are definitely not that. But I think, because that one jalapeno is not really contributing much of anything in terms of spice, I think you probably should swap that up for like a serrano or a habanero, or maybe one of those bright red, that's sort of that next tier up. Jalapeno is too mild. Jalapeno is definitely a little bit too mild here. If you like spice, go for one of those super peppers. Go for the Scotch bonnet or the ghost pepper or something crazy. But and it really tastes like breadfruit. There's no hiding from that. You're not fooled that this is potato or something else. It's got that lovely. If you've never had breadfruit, it's hard to describe because it tastes like bread, but not exactly like bread. It tastes like, and we boiled this, so it's less toasty than when we roast it. When you roast it, it tastes like very similar to bread because you get that toastiness. Since we boiled this one, it almost reminds me of like turnip, but really just a whisper of that in sort of that warm, starchy flavor of the breadfruit. These are tasty, and they're not vegan because there is an egg in there, so they're vegetarian. They're very satisfying. I've said this, and we did this because I was excited because breadfruit was back. I like breadfruit. It's really good. It's also good for you. These are quite nice. They were pretty easy. You could follow this same recipe, I think, with any starch and get similar consistency in the results, but you wouldn't get the taste. You wouldn't get that breadfruit taste. And I know breadfruit is not exactly a common ingredient in America, but it's gradually making inroads from the tropics. One of these recipes claims to be Jamaican, but the site it's on is Global Kitchen Travels. So it's like bringing these global recipes closer to home, and they even call out breadfruit was once unheard of in the States, but has rapidly. So breadfruit is originally from the islands, I don't know which ones. I'm gonna collectively say Indonesia, Philippines area. It's from those islands. But it was exported from there into the Caribbean and into parts of the Indian Ocean during the slave trade because it's a tropical starch that grows really rapidly, produces a ton of fruit with basically no need to tend it. So it's basically like potatoes, but it's a tropical tree instead of uh, an underground thing. And the same tree just keeps producing these big old fruits. So it's, at the moment, kind of pan-tropical in the sort of tropical islands all around the globe. They're these big gnarly looking things. It looks like it's got snake skin on the outside. It's got green, it's got scales. But they're not that hard to cook. They're a little tricky to peel because they don't want to come off in nice peels if you use a peeler. What I did this time was I boiled them and then the skin just scraped away with a spoon. It was really easy. When I've roasted them in the past, I just went out with a knife because they're a little hard to. You can't use just a standard peeler because it breaks at each little scale, so you end up with all these little like flakes. A little awkward, and there's just a little core in the middle. It's not massive. It's like not quite as big as a golf ball for a fruit that's usually larger than a coconut. You cut that out because it doesn't cook up. It's just a little fibrous thing in the middle. So most of it is one of those things where I've gotten some tropical fruits before where it's neat. Once you've dressed it down and gotten rid of the pit and the skin and all the bits and pieces, you're not left with that much. Not so with breadfruit. The skin is tough, but it's really thin. So once you get rid of it, you've got a lot left. And then the core is only like this big. So once you got rid of that, you end up with, well, this all came from one breadfruit. Here, actually, we have the scraps bowl here. The skin lost its greenness when I boiled it, but this is what the skin looks like. So you see it's got these little scales, and there's just a little bit of the flesh attached to the backside there. I had heard of it as sort of an exotic thing quite a while back, and then I saw it at the store. I was like, I have to try that. And then I absolutely fell in love with it. I absolutely fell in love with it. I love it's because it's like a unique flavor. It's a starch along the lines of any of your tuberous roots, but it doesn't taste like any of those. It tastes more like a bread, but not exactly. So yeah, and it obviously has a non-English name too that I am blanking on. I looked it up at one point. But yeah, so I was glad to see it back today. I picked it up today and decided to cook it because I was so excited about it. And a new recipe for it, and it's great. Because I knew that testing this would not take the whole time, and whenever I do a thing that I know is not going to take the whole time, we have to do something else alongside it. The little thing worked great too. The ability to microwave garlic in just a minute or a minute and a half, very impressed. Well, I'm going to want to dive into the rest of these while they are still hot. I don't know if I'm going to eat all of these. This is quite a lot. This is enough for sharing. Come on over. No, but I'm going to pop back up to the top. Hi. And then we're going to see who is kicking around on a Monday. To send you guys off to. Who is on a Monday? Ooh, not many people on a Monday at this time. Let's go say hi to Lee Chat. Lee Chaton. Who is playing Stardew as always. Because none of my cooking targets are on, and yeah. So, hey, I made it on a Monday. I didn't put it off till Tuesday again. I wanted to make Mondays the sort of regular thing. Just because I need to get a schedule that is actually like written down and reliable. But yeah, we now have garlic. So we are going to have to come back this week to do something with garlic. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna preview something. We're gonna exclusive for the people who are watching during the raid countdown. Preview. Oh, behold, oxtails, marked down from $30 to $16. Behold, oxtails. We're gonna do something with that. I'm glad you caught me too. I'm always happy when I see people swing on in. My timing always seems a little off. There's our countdown, so we're just gonna say, see you later this week. Bye. Let me push stop.